A little bit of an agenda for you. I'm going to take you through, or Darren will take you through an introduction to electronic business systems, or EBS. I will then drop back to take you through who Cim are. We'll then move into the Sage manufacturing timeline. We may or may not have people on here that are already using Sage 50 manufacturing, so bring you up to speed with the timeline for Sage 50 manufacturing. Then drop into a timeline for Cim50 with a bit of an overview of how that came about. And for those of you using Sage 50 manufacturing, why you might want to switch, or indeed, it's pretty much the same message if you're new to a manufacturing solution for Sage 50. We're trying to solve the same problems and the same pain points, if you like. We then drop into a quick demo. I'm sure you appreciate it will be a sort of a whistle-stop tour, but I'll try and get across as many sort of key exciting features as I can, and talk about the benefits of those. Within that demo, that part of the session will take sort of approximately 30 minutes, and then we'll drop back to some slides to talk about data migration, if indeed you're using Sage 50 manufacturing, because we can migrate your Sage 50 manufacturing data to Cim50. We'll talk about the commercials, future roadmaps, and then the next step. And if you've got any questions, by all means, feel free to do so. Within Teams, there is chat. So if you've got a question, maybe drop it into a chat. But maybe what we'll do at the end is Darren will open it up so you can ask any questions at the end. Okay, so without further ado, over to Darren to give you an introduction to electronic business systems.
Yeah, I won't take much time on this section, but just to give you sort of a little bit of background about electronic business systems, or EBS. So we're based in Birmingham and have been for over 40 years, which is quite a long time for an IT company. We're a Sage partner and we support Sage 50, particularly in manufacturing, and Sage 200. And we are experts in manufacturing. We have a number of sites that we've implemented over the past 40 years that use manufacturing software. We also provide systems for things like barcoding and warehousing. On the other side of our business, we have a hardware division, and we provide infrastructure sort of predominantly based around Microsoft Windows desktop and server. So we sell and support server and PC hardware. We offer managed services around things like antivirus, patch management, etc., etc. And we offer products and solutions to cover sort of security, which seems ever increasingly important. So we support sonic wall firewalls, as for instance, plus software around their web filtering software and things like that. And happy to talk to any of you at any time about anything else that we can help you with on that side. So without further ado, I'll let Martin launch into what you're here for today. Thank you.
Thank you, Darren. Okay, so who is Cim? So Cim Services is a business partner much the same as EBS. We support Sage 50 and Sage 200 sites and successfully implemented over 300 of those. But we're also, the other side of our business is the Cim Software division, which is our development side of the business. And we recently, back in August of last year, became a strategic ISV, independent software vendor for Sage. So what that means is that we're a level up from a Sage developer, and we were invited by Sage to get our product fully accredited and added to the Sage price list. Okay, so we are very integrated with Sage. So we have weekly account management meetings, we have regular meetings with the product teams, we have regular meetings with developers, and we've also got extra functionality added to the Sage developer tools to allow us to integrate our Cim50 solution even further into Sage 50 accounts, and some of that will be coming out later this year when we integrate with Sage 50 accounts projects. Okay, so we are very much integrated into Sage. We've been around since the mid-90s. As I said, we've successfully implemented a number of Sage 200 and Sage 50 sites, and the majority of those are in manufacturing. So we were well placed to be able to provide the Cim50 solution. We've got a management team consisting of well over 100 years of experience in implementing, supporting, developing manufacturing solutions, and even using them. Okay, I myself have a production controller for the MOD and an aerospace engineering company. Roger, the operations manager, worked for a stairlift company. Steve, one of the other guys, are just examples that work for a food manufacturing company. So we've got lots of experience in manufacturing at the sharp end, if you like, as well as on this side of the fence. So for those of you who are using Sage 50 manufacturing, you may or may not be aware, but Sage 50 accounts version 27 will be the last version that Sage will support with Sage 50 manufacturing. And it entered extended support on the 1st of October 2020, and that was announced by Sage August last year. Support will be ending on the 30th of September 2021, and you can find further details on our website and Sage's website, so you might want to pick up on that if you needed to. Okay, so just to make you aware of that. And the reason why Sage have done that is because the technology that Sage 50 manufacturing sits on has been end of life by Microsoft. Therefore, Sage would have to redevelop or rewrite the whole of Sage 50 manufacturing, hence why they contacted us, because we in some ways had done that for them. Okay, and Sage, by their own admission, are recoiling back to becoming providers of accounts, payroll, HR solutions. Okay, and let ISVs such as ourselves, who've got expertise and a passion for verticals such as manufacturing, to take on those verticals and provide the solutions that integrate with Sage. So Cim50 then. It is based on Sage 50 manufacturing. Also a number of bespoke developments which we developed over the years. So we've created stock take solutions, barcoding solutions, costing solutions, those sorts of things. So it only felt right for us to bring those together. Sage hadn't really developed Sage 50 manufacturing for a number of years. It hasn't really been developed since about 2012, 2013. So back in 2015, we sat down as a management team and sort of finally decided that we would write our own Cim50 solution. We started to plan that through 2015. We started coding it in the early 2016, with that completed by April 2017, when we released it to beta sites. Okay, on all 3 of the beta sites were running live by August 2017, at which point we released Cim50. Okay, and they are still running with Cim50 today. Okay, nearly 4 years later. Okay, we now have over 200 installations, and that sort of equates to getting on for about 8, a good couple of thousand sort of actual users using the system. Okay, across all of those sites and the various modules. Since release, we've continued with the development with additional features. As Cim50 has got all of the functionality, pretty much all of the functionality that Sage 50 manufacturing has. Okay, with the addition of probably 90 to 100 additional features and other modules. So we've continued the development with a shop floor data capture barcode solution, so you can carry out any stock movement using a barcode, capture labor times using a barcode, and we've also most recently created a carbon emissions calculator. So if you wanted to become a carbon neutral manufacturing business, Cim50 will be able to help you with those calculations for your offset. So what are the issues that we're trying to overcome with Cim50? Okay, and much the same, these are very similar to the issues that you would be trying to overcome with Sage 50 manufacturing or Sage 200 manufacturing, but just to reiterate those really. So on-time deliveries, can we meet customers' due dates? Costings, do we really know what our products cost? It never ceases to amaze me that people, sometimes don't actually know what a product is costing, whether, one might be a loss leader or they might be, costing themselves out of the market maybe. Okay, raw materials, component stock, have we got enough? Have we got too much? If we've got too much, then accountants start to write that stock down. Okay, if we've not got enough, that can impact the on-time deliveries. Okay, buying, when do we buy? What's the best delivery? What's the best price? Okay, who do we normally buy it from? Okay, do we know when to make an item? Do we have the resources? Okay, so with that provide you with some capacity planning, and it's end-to-end control. So keeping control of the whole operation from the quotation from the customer right the way through the manufacturing process to the dispatch and the invoice to the customer. Okay, and for all intents and purposes, it would be ideal if it was all in one system. Okay, and that's what we're trying to achieve with Cim50. So how does Cim50 help with that? So we can manage deadlines with the planning tools within Cim50. So we've got an MRP solution. Costings, you can calculate your costs of bills and materials and get a full breakdown through the materials, the operations, labor and machines. Okay, raw material, get a complete overview of the situation. Okay, demands, replenishments through a stock profile and a theoretical running balance into the future. Utilize alternative suppliers, lead times, and multiple price breaks by supplier when you're buying. Within the MRP, work out what we can make, when we can make it, or when we should be looking to make it. Multi-item trial kitting of bills and materials and works orders. So if the full-blown MRP isn't right for you, then you may be able to utilize the multi-item trial kit. Rough cut capacity planning. So is a particular resource over capacity or underutilized for that matter? Okay, and again, end-to-end control. So we provide seamless integration with your Sage 50 accounts professional. So why switch to Cim50? Okay, if you are using Sage 50 manufacturing, we've retained pretty much all of the core functionality that Sage 50 manufacturing provides. The only exception to that is the graphical planner, okay, the finite scheduling tool, which was provided by Preactor, but that was dropped by Sage a couple of years ago anyway. Okay, but we do provide the rough cut capacity planning. We've got a migration tool to take all of your Sage 50 manufacturing data over to Cim50. If you're not using Sage 50 manufacturing, then there are import routines that you can import data from maybe spreadsheets, okay, or if you can extract data from your existing system into a spreadsheet that can be imported into Cim50 for static data such as stock items, bills and materials and the likes. We integrate with the Sage 50 product field, so every stock field which is in Sage 50 accounts is accessible from Cim50, and we can carry out any stock transaction. So there's no need to flick between the two systems. We've made it so that it's an integrated solution and all of the functionality exists in Cim50 if you're dealing with stock control. From an analysis point of view, the rough cut capacity planning, carbon footprint calculating with the reporting of your carbon offset. You can automate the MRP, so instead of having to press a button and wait for the MRP recommendations list to appear, you can leave that to run overnight and for it to be available to you in the morning. And then the shop floor data capture allows you to control stock in real time and the capturing of labour times in real time. So giving you a sort of better control of those elements. So Cim50 is a modular system. It integrates with Sage 50 Accounts Professional version 27. As soon as Sage bring out version 28, we will be compatible. As a strategic ISV, we do actually get sight of new versions of Sage 50 accounts, even in advance of standard developers. So we should be good to go at release. And that has actually been the case every year that Sage have brought out a new version of accounts since Cim50 has been released. We've then got the modules. So if you've used Sage 50 manufacturing, you might be familiar with the batch controller, job controller, manufacturing controller. That's groups of modules, whereas we've modularized our solutions so you can pick and choose. Okay, some are depending on each other, but you can sort of pick and choose. So you have to have the control panel and stock control. And then you decide on the type of business you are, whether you're a repeat business or a one-off. You might go for bills, materials, or quotations, or both. Planning, if you want to go for the full-blown MRP, you take the planning module. Works orders, if you've got a need for works orders, you would take the works orders module, and then the shop floor data capture and the barcoding may be the cherry on top of the cake once you've got to grips with the other modules. Okay, so you can pick and choose. User counts are concurrent. You take the users as required. Okay, so they go up in just one, so no issue there. And it's sold on a subscription basis, but more about that later. Okay, so what I'm now going to do is I'm going to drop into a demo to show you the software. For the next sort of 25-30 minutes, and we'll drop back to the slides in a second. Okay, so in the first instance, just introduce you to the shortcuts and the software. So we've got Sage 50 accounts installed on this machine and Cim50. We have to have Sage 50 accounts installed, but we don't have to have access to it. I have got Sage 50 accounts open for convenience so that I can maybe show you some of the results from the data entry within Cim50. So if I go into Cim50, what I'm first presented with is this is how it would present itself when we first logged in. It would be our home page. And this gives us some data information, gives us some data checked information. So we check data overnight because it's an integrated solution, and Sage 50 accounts can have automated check data. It only seems right that we do the same. Okay, to check for any anomalies, like somebody may have deleted a stock code in accounts, but not deleted it in Cim50, those sorts of things. So it will pick up on those sorts of things. Data information, as I said, when MRP was last run, there is a sync service which keeps the two systems in check. So that's just telling us that that's running. Some news. So our latest 2021.3 is now available. It's the latest release, and some news here that we're sort of revamping our help file and knowledge base, which is coming later this month. Okay, and any check data problems would be detailed here. Down the left-hand side, we've then got modules. So stock control, bills and materials, planning, quotations, works orders, and some dashboards. This will be depending on the access rights that you give a user. And then when you're within a module, you can decide on the features that you provide to a user. If I drop into stock control, we can see that we've got the features running across the top here. Got a similar sort of look and feel to Sage 50 accounts, I'm sure you agree, but it's our sort of our own take on it, our own branding, but it's got some familiarity. We can add columns, take columns away. That's for us as a user. We can create filters or select a filter that we've already predefined. You can make those public if you want to, and we can also carry out a quick filter. The data set that I'm using today is office furniture. So this is, I've looked for anything that includes oak in the stock code or the name. Okay, and from here, what I can do is I can choose an item from the list. And you can see here that we've got values on the columns that I've chosen as my user. Okay, one key difference in here over Sage 50 manufacturing. In Sage 50 manufacturing, you couldn't detail the quantities in stock allocated and on order, those sorts of things on the list views in product information. Okay, you'd have to drop across to accounts or open up the stock record itself. So if I highlight this stock item, there's various things that I can carry out within this stock item. So new, amend, view, copy. So our access rights are quite granular. So if you didn't want to give somebody the ability to amend a stock code, but you did want to give them the ability to view, then you could do so. If I wanted to copy a part, then I could. Got a blue one, make a red one. If I wanted to interrogate the system to break these figures down a little bit more in a bit more detail, so we've got 20 on order, but where are they on order? What purchase orders or whatever? If I drop into the profile, it will detail the breakdown of that. So I can see here that we've got purchase orders for 20, purchase order number 12 due on the 9th of April, so that one's slightly overdue, of course. And if I wanted to, I can view the order. Because I've got Sage open, it's opened up the order, and I could then start to interrogate the system and maybe speak to the supplier. Okay, so you can see that we've got links through to Sage. If I move in down the page, we can, as well as before we do that, actually, we can look at if there's any sales orders, works orders, that sort of thing. Okay, so we can see that there's some works orders outstanding for this item, so it's a component. If I wanted to see that in a list view, then I can see that we've got a balance of 310 free stock. We've got 20 coming in, and we've got a works order that's going to consume some of those. All potentially going to happen today because I've got a setting set that is assuming that that overdue purchase order is going to come in today because that's the best that we can do. Okay. We've also got statistics, so KPIs for on time and in full delivery percentages. Cost price variances, so we can see here that one supplier is quite static, we've got one that's quite erratic. Okay, and finally the stock history, which has come through from Sage. Moving through this item, we do deal with batch and serial number traceability. And that is by item. So if I clear my list, you'll see that I've got some items which are non-traceable. So what that will do is the system will not prompt me for batch and serial numbers when I'm booking the item into stock or issuing it to a works order, dispatching it to a sales order, or carrying out a stock take for that matter. But if I go back to my timber oak and I go into traceability, and maybe look for the timber oak, we can see that we've got batch numbers there for that item, but I can actually filter that down further if I wanted to. And I've got various batches for our timber oak. So that quantity in stock is made up of a number of batches. And then what I can do is I can drill into a particular batch if I want to look at further details. So maybe who supplied it, okay, what their batch number was, costings, whether it went into quarantine, this item didn't, whether there's any further analysis, any notes, any attachments, so we can attach files to batch. So maybe that's the supplier has sent you a CFC as a PDF. We can then attach documents to our batch on goods receipt, which I'll show you shortly, and then the movements of that item. We've also got another way that we can sort of inquire on traceability, if that's important to you, is that I can search maybe for a GRN number and it will give me the details so that it came in on purchase on number 11 and we've made an adjustment to that batch. So we've got traceability and we can drill down further on that if we needed to. We can carry out stock adjustments of an item. So if it's traceable, then it will list out the batches that we've got in stock, or I can look at other batches which may not be in stock and make the relevant adjustments. Okay, so I could split the batch. Maybe I want to change the location. So this item hasn't got a location, so I'm going to move it to a bin location, and I'm going to move the full 90 to there. And just to show you that it retains that traceability, if I go into the batches and look at that batch, we can see there that that adjustment has been recorded against the batch, as well as the stock items. So we've got full traceability for those items. Okay, if it was non-traceable, then we would get a different screen. It would just use do stock movements on a first in, first out basis for non-traceable items. So using the oldest delivery first, in the same way as Sage 50 accounts does. If we move to external, we've got the ability, because of the traceability, we've got the ability to receive goods, dispatch goods, and create credit notes, because Sage 50 accounts has no concept of traceability. What this also does is it gives us some additional functionality, such as amending receipts. Okay, so that great undo button. So we received 100, but in actual fact, we intended to receive 10. As long as I've not used that stock, I could amend that receipt to put 90 back into stock, okay, and put the purchase order back to on order. Okay, but if I go and receive stock, I know the purchase order number. It will detail me the line items, but I could come at it from a stock item point of view, or from a supplier or due date. So some sort of extra usability there. We can say to the system how many we've received of an item. It automatically recognizes that this is a batch traceable item, so we can record things like the supplier's batch number, the certificate number, that sort of thing. We could split that batch out if we wanted to, and if somebody had sent us a document, then we can attach a picture maybe, okay, or a document. So that's now attached to that batch as I'm booking that item into stock. If I confirm that, I can then move on to the second item, and there you can see it's defaulting to quarantine. So we've told the system that these cupboards need inspecting each time that we book them into stock, and the default for that is for it to go into quarantine. Okay, so if I receive those 5, okay, that's not a traceable item, so it's not popped up with that traceable screen. Okay, but it will receive those items. I can go back to my timber oak as well, just to show you the needed by button. So it's telling us that there's a works order that needs this material. So at goods receipt, I can actually see if there's any works orders. This item doesn't. Okay, if I'm happy with that receipt, I can go receive. I will then be prompted to print a goods received note. So there's my goods received note with the timber oak and the cupboards. And following that, I get the ability to print a label. Okay, so I can print a label with a barcode on it. Okay, so this is a traceable item, so it's printed the batch number. So we can use that for scanning using our shop floor data capture module later. And the cupboard is not traceable, so it's put the stock code as a barcode for me. So if I now close that screen, It's recognised that, as we saw before, that stock is needed for a works order, and I could, if I want to, allocate that stock, which is now done. So it's reserved that stock now for that works order. Okay. Whilst we're talking about goods receipt, what I also want to do is just drop into our shop floor data capture module and just show you receiving goods via the shop floor data capture. So if I just minimize this screen and drop across to the shop floor data capture module, what you'll see here is that any stock movement can be carried out using the shop floor data capture, plus the ability to capture actual times. But just for the time that we've got today, I'm just going to do a goods receipt. So when I click into goods receipt, it's then prompting me for the order number, the purchase order number. So I'm just typing it into my keyboard here today, because if I scanned a barcode, it wouldn't have really the same effect, but you can sort of see this happening in sort of slow time. But this is just like somebody in the supermarket keying the barcode into the till. It then prompts me for the item that I'm booking in. So again, that might be a barcode on a delivery note that the supplier has supplied you. And then it's prompting me for the quantity that I'm receiving. And in this case, it's the 10. Okay, this is a touchscreen laptop, so when I go confirm, I've done that with my finger on the screen. Okay, again, it's recognized that it's a batch traceable item, so this could be technically a tablet, and I could then maybe scan a batch number, a supplier batch number, that sort of thing. Okay, I go confirm and confirm to receive that item, maybe that I've got a supplier's delivery note number, confirm. It will try and print a label, but I haven't got a printer attached, so it's going to try and output it to a file. But it's just like printing a receipt or something like that from the till. But if I now go back into Cim50, okay, and I just refresh that view, the quantity on order has gone down to 0. And if I view that stock item and go to the stock history, we can see there the 2 receipts into stock in real time. Okay, if I go to batches, we can see the 2 batches which have been created. Okay, the first one by my Cim50 login, and the second one via my shop floor data capture login. I was in as Martin Connor. Okay, so you can see that that is in real time. Okay, carrying on through stock control, as I say, we can do dispatches. I might come back to that a little bit later on. We do have the ability to quarantine, so you can book items into quarantine. So these are waiting inspection, and I can inspect them and move them back to free stock. I can produce inspection reports and returns notes if I want to. I can stock take my items. That can be for all items, or I can filter that list if I want to. From that list, what I can do is I can print count sheets. Okay, for somebody to complete. I've also got the ability to export that list to to Excel. So you can fill it out in Excel and then re-import it back in. But it might be that I want to key this data. So it's allowing me to fill that data in, and if we've got batch or serial numbers, then I can update those batch and serial numbers. I can either save the progress, so I can keep coming back to this, or I can update the count. If I just save the progress for the moment and I try and do a stock movement for an item which is in the stock take, I get a message. Okay, so I can't do any stock movements while the item is being stock take. So that's a setting. If I go back to my stock take and I update the count, just wants me to put my initials in there. I'm going to just complete it as it is. I'm saying that I've finished, and I'm going to ignore the uncounted items. And I want to finalize that. That's now been consigned to history. And if I just clear that and go to my item, the steel tube. I've got 1399. So in real time, that movement has taken place, and the stock take reference has been added. We've got various reports. You would they're more about sort of performance reports, those sorts of things. You'd still carry out stock valuations, etc. in accounts. Moving into bills and materials, a bill of material functions in the same way, so the same sort of access rights with the features. If I go into a bill of material, we've got header information, so notes, images, we've got components, so what goes into an item to make a desk. So we need some drawer sets, we need some legs, screws, some studs, and a desktop. We can deal with sub-assemblies, multiple levels, and multiple components. As well as having components on the bills and materials, we've also got operations with run times, hours, minutes, and seconds, setup times, labor times, machine times and costs, okay, tooling costs, manufacturing instructions which could appear on shop floor paperwork, route cards and job sheets and the likes, and others. So whether you want documentation to be printed, these operations to be printed on documentation and piecework, etc. These can all be predefined, set up in registers for you. We've also got the ability to assign documents and drawings to our bills and materials, and these can be referenced on shop floor paperwork. Costings, so how much does this bill of material cost us based on a last or actual cost price? And what you can also start to see is our carbon costs coming in, so our kilogram CO2 equivalent value starting to appear here with our carbon footprint calculator. So if I cost that bill of material, it gives me a breakdown of the materials, the labour, the setup times, the machine, subcontract, tooling costs, because we can deal with subcontract, overheads, if we set any overhead percentages, and a unit cost. And to make 100 of these, it's also calculated that the kg CO2 equivalent is 778 kilos. Okay. We can also get a further breakdown of that. So if we wanted to get down to sort of right down into the detail of this bill of material by component through the sub-assemblies, we can get a costing or quantity, a costing, overhead cost, total cost, a kg CO2 equivalent if you were using that, and also right the way through the operations. Okay, so you feed in values for your fuel bills, and if you want to write down to the machine level, if you want to have the sort of the energy that a particular machine or resource uses. Okay, so we've got a full breakdown there, and you can print that out if you want to get nice sort of pie charts and things of the breakdown of the costs. That's now recorded. We can view the various different costings for the bills and materials. We've got analysis codes, so you've got per module and per sub-module, you've got 20 analysis codes or custom fields per area of the software that you can set up and predefine as text, numeric, date, or booleans, which are checkboxes. And we've also got an audit log. So if I, for instance, so there's my costing, it recorded that I'd costed it, but if I maybe go and change some data, so I'll change the revision number, I save that record, I now go in and view the bill of material that's been recorded in the audit log. Okay. I can copy my bills, I can trial kit a bill of material. Again, you may have picked up on it in the slides, but we can multi-trial kit. So I can also trial kit the oak and the pine desk at exactly the same time. And if there are any common components, they will get taken into account, rather than trial kitting one bill of material and then the next bill of material, and you may have common components. We can raise purchase orders and works orders from there. Okay, so again, saving time, so you're not having to move across to Sage 50 accounts and feed that data into Sage 50 accounts. We can check for maximum build. We can build from here without a works order. We can reverse build, so again, that undo button. We can explode our bill of material out into a tree view. from the top down or from the bottom up if we want to. Costs from here and create reports. So where use reports, indented parts list, those sorts of quite useful reports. If I move into the planning and the MRP, we've got the demand schedule. So what we can do is we can pull in the demands from sales orders, make to stock, finger in the air. I want to make some forecasts, reorder levels and works orders. So it gives us a summary, lists out our demands. And if we're happy with that list, we can then move across to the MRP and run the MRP. Both those stages can be automated as well. So again, I can look 6 months into the future. I want to look at various replenishments. I want to look at certain target items. So if I wanted to look at particular sales orders or customer, I could. But I'm going to look at all items, and off it goes and creates a recommendation list. This little data set's a little bit in the past, so that's why we've got sort of a number of items which are overdue. But what it's done is it's listed out items that we need to manufacture and items that we need to purchase, when the demand date is, so everything is due today, when we should be ordering it and when the receipt date will be. And it's tagged these to the ultimate demand. In most cases, it will be sales orders or multiples of sales orders. Because if we're batching stuff together, we don't want to place multiple orders for a single item. We just want to place the one item, one order, maybe to cover multiple demands. From here, what I can do is I can action recommendations. So maybe I pick a purchase recommendation and action that. I'm only going to action this recommendation for the recommended quantity. Click OK. And we now have a purchase order number. So to save me keying that data, that's all fully amendable in here. So if we wanted to change the supplier or the due date, that could happen before we action the recommendation. But if I now move across to purchase orders, we will see that we've got purchase order number 20 with a due date of the 21st of June, which came from the recommendation. If I go back to Cim50 and maybe action a make recommendation or manufacturer recommendation. Again, I'm just going to do it for action this one recommendation. It's now created a works order. And if I move to works orders, we now have a works order which we can print documentation for. So we get a label that we can print out and give to the operator to put onto the goods so that it can be labeled up before it comes back to the stores. Again, with a barcode on there to use with our shop floor data capture module. We have a picking list. These can all be amended to suit your needs using Crystal reports with the works order details, dates, components, and again the barcode on there to work with the shop floor data capture. And then we have a route card, again with the same header information detailing the sales order that we're manufacturing this for, areas to record actual times and barcodes so that we can record times using our shop floor data capture module. Our works orders, we can also trial kit to see if we've got any shortages. So we can see that we have got some shortages. And we can again raise purchase orders and works orders, and we can trial kit multiple works orders if we wanted to. We can also see if there was any purchase orders outstanding for the shortages as well from that screen. But what I might want to do is allocate the stock. So reserve the stock. I can reverse allocate. I'm going to allocate as much as I possibly can, so that you can see is part allocated. I can then issue stock. I can do that by works order by stock item. So you might have 1,000 components and we want to issue to multiple works orders. We don't want to go into multiple works orders. We just do it in one action, but we can do it from Cim50. Again, something that's over and above the functionality in Sage 50 manufacturing. So I'm going to issue the stock. It's recognized that it's a traceable item, so it's asking me to confirm the batches. If we have multiple batches for a particular item, I could choose different batches, so we can see here that this is part issued. We've also got the ability to check our capacity planning. We can book times. We can review a work to list if we want to. Maybe things that you might want to explore as part of a sort of a one-to-one demo with Darren and his team. What I'm going to do finally in the works orders is complete the works orders. So it's saying that I can only complete 30 because we've only issued enough material to make 30, and this item defaults it to go into quarantine, but I've got the ability to override that with my access rights, which I'm actually going to do. Do I want to complete those? Yes, I do. It's recognized that I haven't booked any labor times, so it's just going to use the standard times. And it's just asking me to do that, and we'll print a label. What it's also done is asked me to, do I want to allocate this to the sales order? Okay, that it was linked to, if you remember. So that's now part complete. So if I go back to stock control and into external, I now might want to dispatch an item. It might be that I want to come at it from stock code, so maybe oak. I might want to dispatch this sales order. It's recognized that it's a traceable item, so I can pick the batch that I pick from. And that is now dispatch that item. Not worried about the second item, and created a delivery note. From that delivery note, I can create a picking list to give to the stores so they can check the batches. And I can print a delivery note where I've got optional courier information that I can complete. Which will appear on the delivery note. Again, these can be laid out how you want them to be laid out. So there's that packaging information. Up until the point that I update that to invoice, I can amend that delivery note, something that you can't do in Sage 50 accounts. So if 37 didn't go, I can amend that. Maybe I could change the batches, change the delivery address, that sort of thing. Okay, can all be done within delivery notes. But if I'm happy that those goods are gone, I can then update it to invoice. I now have an invoice number. And if I move across to Sage 50 accounts and into invoices, there's my invoice. Detailing the sales order number, the delivery note, the items which were dispatched, and prices, etc. from the sales order. And if I drop across to the sales order number 6 had been delivered complete. Okay, so that say Cim50 has taken care of all of that for us. Okay, just finally, I was just going to touch on quotations. The quotations module allows us to create a quotation for a customer or a prospect. I'm going to do it for a customer and create products from the ground up. So you may want to quote for an existing item which has got a bill of material. So there's our oak desk. It's pulled the price in and pulled in the bill of material. Or it might be that I want to quote for something that I've never made before. Okay, and I'm not even sure that it will come to anything. I can give it a description, I can give it a price, or I can build a bill of material on the fly. That won't hit the bill of materials module until such time as we're ready to do so. And then we can create the stock items, create the bills of materials, create the sales orders, create the works orders if you want to. Just go off in various different routes that suit you as a business and how you want to work. So that ends the demonstration. I'm just going to drop back to the slides and just finish off where we were where we were. Okay, so if you are a Sage 50 manufacturing company or using Sage 50 manufacturing, then we can migrate all of your data, so product information, traceability, bills of materials, works orders, any settings. Okay, we just don't migrate estimating because that can be different from customer to customer, although we can do that as a bespoke service. We generally need to carry out prerequisite checks of your Sage 50 accounts and manufacturing data prior to a live migration. So we would always recommend a test migration prior to a live migration, and that would actually take place in advance of any training, so you can carry out any training and testing on that data. Okay, and that would be the same as if you were new. We'd probably import your data. Darren and his team would import your data with you and assist you with that implementation. As far as the commercials are concerned, as I said, it is a modular system available on a monthly subscription. So you decide whether you want stock control, bills, materials, planning, MRP, works orders, shop floor data capture. It's a concurrent user count, and the price will depend on the modules and the users that you take. Okay, and the users and modules can be added and taken away on a monthly basis. Okay, you're only tied in month to month. And from a service days point of view, depending on the modules that you take, you're probably looking between sort of 4 and 8 days of service for training, consultancy, installation, maybe some data migration, but that would depend on the site. We've had some which have been bigger than that, some which, you know, if they've just taken stock control, then they may only need a couple of days or so to do that, but sort of typically between sort of 4 and 8, because sort of the modules, the average sort of modules is about 4 modules, average site is about sort of 3-4 users, that sort of thing. As far as the roadmap is concerned, we've got lots of features that have been requested over the 3-4 years that we've had Cim50 out in the marketplace. That's not to say that we got it so wrong, it's just that we're listening and we do include new features. I would say 95% of the new features that we add to the solution have come from customer feedback. But some of the things that we're looking to do is sort of like product templates, drag and drop of MRP component, bill of material components, sorry. We're looking to improve and expand scrapping and capacity planning within the works order module. Looking to do some more work around sort of self forecasts. We are looking to integrate with project accounting, as I said, and that's come off the back of the Sage R&D team opening up projects for us within Sage 50 accounts. We do want to look at doing some additional modules for service, maintenance, warranties and repairs. So you might see some more modules being added to the list. And we're also in the process of coming to the end of the development of our Cim200 solution, which will be is due for release this summer. We're just about to sort of put it out to beta sites at the moment, and that'll be released a bit later on. Okay, that sort of ends the webinar as far as I'm concerned. I suppose that, you know, the sort of the call to action for you is please get in contact with EBS, Darren and his team.
Yeah, I do have a quick question.
Okay, fire away.
The kind of works orders and the quotations, for example, when you print them out, or just create them in general, is that an amendable or editable template that you can have there?
Yes, they are. They're amendable using Crystal Reports, which is a generic report designer.
Yeah, and would you also require a subscription to Crystal Reports as well for that?
If you wanted to be able to amend those, then yes, you would have to purchase Crystal Reports, but EBS will be able to assist you with that as part of the implementation.
Okay, it's a quite a specific question, but are you able to incorporate imagery into those reports?
Yeah, Crystal has the ability to include images. So yeah, so if you wanted your logo and things like that, then that's possible.
Okay, cool.
Thank you for your questions.
Okay. So if there are no more questions, thank you very much for your time. It is appreciated. As I say, don't hesitate to contact us about Cim50 or any of the other solutions that EBS offer. Thank you, and hope to speak to you soon.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks very much.
I hope you found it of interest.
Yeah, take care and stay safe.
Thank you very much. Take care. Bye bye.
Take care.
Thank you.